You should really look at the pattern of Bitcoin after a halving. So why is this interesting? So here's a little Bitcoin price analysis for you guys.
Wait a minute, everyone. We all agree that the crypto market never sleeps, but with countless newsletters out there, how do you choose the best one for you? Bitcoin Zella stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zella today and enjoy the new edge. Let's join Chamath Palihapitiya in this video about these topics and more.
We just had the halving at the end of April.
When did that happen?
The halving is where, just for folks that don't know, the way that Bitcoins are created is by solving these complex mathematical algorithms that take a lot of time and energy and money. And when you solve it, you get rewarded with some number of Bitcoin. And roughly every 4 years, that reward gets cut in half. It's called a halving. And this week, I saw somebody who reminded me all of this. And I just want to give this guy a proper shout out. So his name is Wences Casares. And Wences in Silicon Valley, I would say, really was agent zero of Bitcoin. He was the one in 2010 that introduced it to me. I remember he reminded me of the story, actually. We were at Oren's Hummus. And he's like, he's Argentinian, he's a Greek. So I'm going to try to copy. He's like, Chamath, you need to buy the Bitcoin. So I heard the story. I fell in love with it. I remember I called my family office. I'm like, buy me 1 million of these things. And he was like, or $1 million worth. And he was like, are you crazy? And I was like, no, there's just a little appetizer. We'll get to the main course. Anyways, he has done a phenomenal job of understanding and proselytizing Bitcoin. And I want to thank him because he really put me onto this. But he mentioned something to me when I saw him a couple of days ago, which is you should really look at the pattern of Bitcoin after a halving. And so I was really curious. And so I had a guy on my team, Quentin, put this together. So Nick, let's go to the first page. So why is this interesting? So here's a little Bitcoin price analysis for you guys. So there's been a couple of halving cycles that have happened. And I asked him to go back and look at the price performance 1 month after a halving, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and 18 months after a halving. And what you notice is that there are these moments initially where essentially when you go through a Bitcoin halving, people are sort of reassessing what's happening and they're trying to figure it out. That's sort of what I would say happens in the first month and roughly what also happens in the first 3 months. But then within 6 months to a year and 18 months of these things, there are these crazy price appreciation cycles that happen. So that's what this page shows, which is, 18 months after the first halving, the Bitcoin price returned 45x. After the second halving, it returned almost 28x. And after this third halving, it returned almost an 8x, which is really incredible returns in such a short period of time. If you go to the next page. And so if you graph that, this is what it starts to show, which is what is this price performance after each of these halving cycles. Now, why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because on top of this halving, which theoretically, if history is a guide, we should see some price appreciation. Obviously, the other thing that's happened is we've commercialized Bitcoin. And we talked about this sort of as my big prediction for 2024, which is these ETFs are really going to allow Bitcoin to cross the chasm and have its sort of central key moment, right? And so if you apply the averages, and again, these are just averages, they're by no means predictions. Okay, so I just want to qualify that.
Yeah, this is not financial advice.
It's not financial advice. These are just guesses.
Data.
We took these and we applied it to the price of Bitcoin. And if you go to the next page, you start to see what could happen if you just take the average of the last few cycles. So because the first cycle was so extreme, and you start to...
so you're just doing cycle 2 and 3 here, to be clear.
Just the averages of cycle 2 and 3. And what you start to see is some really meaningful appreciation. And when I talked to Wences about this, how he explained it, which makes a lot of sense to me, is there are a lot of countries that will never look at Bitcoin credibly, even if they support it. The US may be one of those, but there's an increasing body of countries that will become dual currency. And they will look at their local currency, and then they will look at Bitcoin. And they will say both of these two things are needed. One, when you're transacting on a daily basis for random goods and services. And two, when you need to buy a permanent asset that needs to have residual value, you'll use something like BTC. And I think that's a very powerful concept. And if you look at what this price chart could indicate, is that if this thing starts to get to these levels of appreciation, it is going to completely replace gold and start to become something that has transactional utility for hard assets. And I think if you marry that with this worry that some folks have about dollar debasement, you start to see some really interesting opportunities. So I just thought that this was a interesting thing that he here's our disclaimer, interesting thing that he put me on. I thought I'd share that with you. I'll publish this on Twitter, but that's your crypto corner for the year, folks.
Tesla's Elon Musk holds the title of the wealthiest individual on the planet, as reported by the Forbes Real Time Billionaires list on June 1, 2024. However, there exists a potential future where Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, could surpass Musk's fortune. Given the current value of BTC, the price would need to increase by just 210% for the anonymous creator of Bitcoin to become the wealthiest person globally. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman and gold advocate Peter Schiff are in disagreement over inflation. Krugman believes that the inflation bump is over. However, Schiff argues that Krugman didn't even foresee the inflation bump, emphasizing that the Nobel laureate's view on inflation should be disregarded. Schiff explained that all indicators point to a reacceleration of inflation.
Young people do not show up to vote because there isn't an issue that they care about.
Correct.
But there's 50 million Americans that own crypto. 50.
Okay, so if 10% of them are, like, let's say that's their single issue, that's 5 million votes.
No. There's a plausible case where 40 million of those folks show up because you're talking about a structural part of their wealth creation, right? So, for example, like, President Biden talked about giving people a head start by eliminating their debt. That's a narrow issue. And the reason it's a narrow issue, there's just as many people that don't have debt and just as many people that paid off their debt. And it creates a lot of haves and have-nots, right? And there's all these rules around who will get the debt relief, et cetera. You end up touching 4 or 5 million people maximum. But if there are 50 million people who have now decided to have at least a hedge against the establishment and the traditional financial system, and you are threatening to take that wealth away, I could see how 80% of those folks show up to the ballot box and say, all right, which one of you will just leave me alone? And if the answer is President Trump, then they're all going to vote for President Trump.
I think this is like such a great issue for political candidates to embrace. And it's just such a simple framework. I've said it a dozen times. Create a sophisticated investor test. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. People can make whatever crypto projects they want. But to buy it, you just have to take a simple test like a driver's license so that you don't risk your entire net worth or whatever. If you do, you're an informed buyer of crypto. Just make a sophisticated investor test and let's move on. Chamath, just since we're in Crypto Corner, before we leave Crypto Corner, when is my ape going to be worth money again? When will my ape go back up?
Never.
Veteran trader Peter Brandt, with over 4 decades of experience, has highlighted Bitcoin's consistent gains against gold since its inception, foreseeing that 100 ounces of gold will be needed to buy a Bitcoin. Meanwhile, Peter Schiff has insisted that the cryptocurrency has underperformed gold for the past 2.5 years. After a period of intense scrutiny of the cryptocurrency industry, many speculated that the Biden administration had reversed its stance by allowing the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, to approve several spot Ethereum exchange-traded funds, ETF. However, President Joe Biden has vetoed the latest resolution intended to quash the SEC's crypto asset rules in SAB 121. Biden's veto has generated significant animosity within the crypto community, leading to a widespread belief that Biden has lost the support of the entire crypto industry. One of the leaders in the augmented reality industry, Magic Leap, announced on May 30 that it had partnered with Google to enhance the potential of augmented reality technologies. This new collaboration aims to release unique product offerings, while further expanding the long-standing relationship between the two companies. Veteran trader Peter Brandt, with over 4 decades of experience, has highlighted Bitcoin's consistent gains against gold since its inception, foreseeing that 100 ounces of gold will be needed to buy a Bitcoin. Meanwhile, Peter Schiff has insisted that the cryptocurrency has underperformed gold for the past 2.5 years. If you've been with us so far, a big thank you. Don't forget to subscribe for free to Bitcoin Zella for your daily news. The link is waiting below. That's all for today's crypto news. Stick around for more updates, insights, and analysis on cryptocurrencies. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more exciting content.